I'll try and watch on my phone.
All right. Hello. Uh,
I think it'll be pretty far behind. We'll see.
yeah, I'm back. Greetings to all of One Grind Nation. We're gonna let some people get in the stream here before we get started. This is gonna be the premiere. This is gonna be the premiere. Yeah, I'm back. Greetings to all of One Grind.
The premiere episode
You got premiere episode of
of Stab Chats on the One Grind.
Hello.
Cat, what's up, Mo?
All right, I'm back. The call dropped for a minute, so the audio should be back. You guys in the chat, let us know if you can hear everyone. We have MHOG with us, and Isaac, Anatole, myself, Dalos. Um, so
Hi, everybody.
definitely let us know if you can't hear, so we can work that out. Um, but you should be able to hear everyone, I hope. And we're getting all situated here so we can see the questions. Isaac can already see the questions. I just need to be able to see them as well. So that's kind of where we're at. All right, I'm getting to where I can see them now. You heard MHOG. Okay, perfect. Let me know if you heard me. Well, I guess if you're answering the question, you heard me. That's good. All right, cool. Mo said he can hear everyone. All right, it looks like we got people flowing in. So I'm gonna. This is really
Oh
awesome.
shit, we got Eric.
Shion just joined. Say hello, Shion, if you don't mind. We can make sure that people can hear you.
I don't know if he's got sound or if he just joined us.
Okay, we'll work that one out. Um, but I'm gonna let Isaac take it away from here. You can see my video. We didn't work out seeing everyone's video yet. Also, we didn't think it was super important. I might find like a really cool picture to put up as well instead of my face, but we'll see about that. But yeah, we'll let Isaac kind of take it away. Stabchats is his show. I'm very happy to be a guest and to help him kind of deliver this to you guys. But otherwise, take it away, man.
Alrighty. Well, what up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. So a while back on, I think the episode of Stab Chats where we had Glenn on as a guest, I kind of hinted about some exciting things in the Stab Chats future to hopefully kind of improve the podcast as well as make it more of a regular thing. And of course, with the boom of the One Grind Nation and how positive that's been, because, well, mostly Dalos and y'all out there making it such an amazing thing, it just seemed like a natural fit, to combine Stab Chats and the One Grind Nation, and this is where we're at right now. So the subject of this episode will be SKBC. We have Sir Michael Hammer of God, Sir Dalos, maybe Sir Shion on the track here, and we're going to be talking about SKBC as an event, a little bit of the history, different experiences that these fine gentlemen have had at SKBC. They're going to share some of their memories with us, and we're going to talk about SKBC prep because I think that's a big one. Every year I get Facebook messages talking about, asking what classes should I take? What do you think I should take? What would be the best thing? And so we're going to talk about that because I think it's SKBC has only ever gotten better since I jumped on that train in I think 2009 or whatever, and it was well on its way even then. So, MHOG, are you there, buddy?
Yep, what's up?
Sweet. I just wondered if you would talk a little bit about what SKBC is for maybe those out there that have never been, or this is the first time that they're hearing it. What is SKBC and how is it different from any of the other foam fighting events? Feel free to include Bell or DAG or Dystopia Rising in that.
Sure. So the thing with SKBC is different than any other event I've heard of or been to is we only do one thing, and that is we teach people how to hit each other with foam sticks, and we practice what we learn. And the entire event concentrates on that. We don't have battle games, we don't have court, and it's not that I don't love those parts of AmpGuard and other people shouldn't love those parts of their organization, but we think SKBC better achieves its mission by concentrating tightly. So that's all we do. And we have classes, we have ditch battles to practice in between the classes, there's one-on-one time with the instructors. There's plenty of time to get your one-on-one fights with instructors and with other people. And the effects of this aren't just the concentration in time, but the concentration of interest. Because nobody's going to come to the event who doesn't want to fight better. Right? So you're not going to have to worry about, well, how do we make it fun for the people who are here but don't really want to fight? Because those people aren't coming. So instead, we can concentrate on how do we make it better for everybody who wants to fight, because that's who is coming.
Sure, yeah. And I want to talk a little bit about the history about it before, but before we do that, why did SKBC come about? Was there an impetus for it other than just a bunch of y'all sitting around and like, hey, we should do this? Was there some other catalyst to the idea? Was it in response to something? Or was it just that? Was it just everybody going, well, why don't we have this thing? We should make this thing. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Certainly. So I'll tell you, I wasn't there for the very genesis of the idea. But Sir Guy and Sir Leaf and Sir Cedric were driving around the mountains in Colorado looking for an event site. And anybody who's been on a car trip knows we spend a lot of time talking about whatever random AmpGuard things. And during that car trip, and I've heard different stories about who said it first, but during that car trip, the phrase Sword Night Boot Camp came up. Okay? And it's not like the phrase doesn't contain the idea inside it. So the idea and the phrase came about simultaneously.
Sure.
And the next weekend at the park, and we're going a little bit toward history now, but I'm trying to stay on track with your question.
That's fine.
So the next week at the park, those three took aside all of the Sword Knights of the Iron Mountains, which at that time it was those two. Cedric wasn't a Sword Knight, and he never was, but those two were Sword Knights, Guy and Leaf, and they also had me and Thor and Wolfram and Jatara. So those were the four people they added as the active Sword Knights in the Iron Mountains at that time, and we sat around an empty grill just talking about whether this was a good idea and whether we could do it and whether it was a good idea. And primarily, we were thinking, how do we better train the fighters in the Iron Mountains?
Okay.
Because at that time, the Iron Mountains had the best fighters in AmpGuard, or at least had a little more than our share of them, and we wanted to keep it that way.
Sure. Did you think were you at the original, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but at the original kind of formation of this thing, I mean, was it originally intended to only be something for Colorado, or did the first discussions, did the first ideas include the wider AmpGuard world?
So the first discussion included the wider AmpGuard world, but only in a small way. That small way is super important, though. And the way it included it is we're talking about this, and we said this has no validity if we do not get some instructors from Texas.
Okay.
True that.
So from the very beginning, we knew we had to reach out and add more than just ourselves.
Sure.
That first year, we only had 2 instructors who weren't from Texas, and that was Sir Spin and Sir Arthon. And a couple of other guys who came up from Texas later became instructors and mainstays, and that's Dalos and Brennan. But they were not knights or even warlords at that time.
Oh, okay. So Dalos, your first SKBC, you were a student then?
Yeah, my first SKBC, I was a student, and I think from the beginning I kind of helped Harry out with sword and board. We've done so many sword and board classes together. I don't know that I remember all of them, but I think I did take some classes the first year. I know I was in Harry's sword and board to kind of chill and help him out because it had never been done before, so we had really kind of no idea how it would work. And obviously,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I want to hear this.
I was going to say, I remember you were in my team's class because you had a loin chop. I kind of remember that.
Yeah, I guess I'll have to tell that story. Zoom out will love that we tell that story. But yeah, I was in teams. I wasn't sure if that was 1 or 2, but I guess that was 1. Yeah, no, actually, that was definitely 1. Yeah. So I took teams with Will for sure, because I do remember that story, which we'll get to in a minute. But yeah, I was kind of on my way up then. Had been training really hard, and I'll say that, and maybe this is not the best reason to want to be a sword knight. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But from the beginning, since SKBC came about, I've always been kind of partial to teaching and helping people out, and whatever things I get involved in. So, so from when SKBC first started, I was like, oh, now I definitely have to become a sword knight because I know I can get involved in this, and I know I can help people get better. Like, I just have an aptitude to teach, and I think that I can use it to help people learn. Even way back then, when I was a cocky young man, which I was for sure.
Instead of a cocky old man now?
Yeah, exactly. I'm a little wiser, a little less cocky, maybe not. But definitely wanted to, get in there and help people understand and learn. Cool. And it's not a knock on the people who trained me, because they trained me the best way they knew how, right? They they basically beat it into me until I got better, right? And that's fine. That is a method of training, but I just think there are better methods, and I think SKBC, to stay on the point, SKBC was a big catalyst for let's elevate everyone, and that will also elevate us, right? Because the more you teach people around you, the better you're going to get. And before we get deep into that topic, because I know that spawns conversation, to tell the story Will brought up, I was in his team's class. It was 5-on-5s, if I remember correctly. That was the number anyway. And
now, is this the same team's class that you're still teaching, Mikey? Is this the same one?
So, I guess this is the 13th SKBC, and that class has been rewritten 4 times. Some of the material is the same. I think I'm teaching it. No, I think I'm not teaching it this year. Somebody else has small unit this year, I think.
Okay.
My small unit class has had 4 revisions, and my 2-man team's class has had 6 revisions, but some parts stay the same.
Okay.
Yeah, so so I was far right flank, as torches are wont to do, and I believe Zumat, who's now a good friend of mine, let me just stress that before we get into the story, was far left flank. And as torches are wont to do, I turned the corner, and I took my guy, turned the corner, backstabbed most of the team. I think they weren't really prepared for the kind of backstabbing that we get into, even though Will tried to tell them ahead of time. I'll stress that. Will warned them what was going to happen. I don't think they believed it. And, I made it to Zumat, and he was on his knee already, like, legged, but he was still up. And so he was the last person I killed. And I dropped all my equipment and loin chopped him right in his face. And then he said a profanity at me and tried to punch me in the jimmy, but I dodged. And that was pretty much the end of it. But Jody and I are really good friends now, man. I love that guy a lot. But that is how we met for the most part, was that SK.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So now, I definitely came into SKBC a lot later. I think like in 2009, like I was saying. But how much of the formulation of SKBC was in response to the predominant fighting culture at the time, which I wasn't really around for, but I hear it was very much a culture that taught people to keep its secrets and was very much the opposite of bring everybody up, let's keep everybody down. Regional styles, had their own secrets and techniques. How much of SKBC was a response to that, or was it at all?
So it was less of a response than it might have been, because the Colorado Sword Knights, and I'll include myself in that because I ended up living here long enough that I got their culture before SKBC came along.
Okay.
And so did Leroy. But the Colorado Sword Knights were always a little better at sharing, and everybody teaches everybody around them.
Was that different in Texas?
That's why they had early success.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it's part of why they had early success.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't unnatural for us to say, boy, we want to make everybody in Colorado better. So let's get together and have some classes and make sure we're teaching everybody. And for God's sake, let's get some Texas guys up here so that our people aren't caught out not knowing what to do whenever they go to Texas.
Was that a similar sort of culture in Texas at the time, James?
No way.
You said you were kind of on your rising star, right, around that time?
Yeah, I was pushing hard, and our culture was maybe we didn't really teach fighting, even internally to my own company, The Chosen. It wasn't really about teaching fighting. It was literally about, I'll fight you as much as you want, and I want you to get better. And maybe I'll say, why am I still killing you with this every time? But it wasn't like the kind of analytical breakdown that we do now. Like, there was nothing like that back then. It was like literally, if you're not going to block that shoulder, I'm going to hit you in it 500 times until you do. I got hit so many times by the Arthon charge. So many shots actually originated from me defending the Arthon charge, as a matter of fact. But that's just how you learned here. And there wasn't a big culture of sharing. Every event that we would go to, we were looking for people who are our friends, but not to share with them, to see like who was going to be better that event. It's similar to how it is now, except for we're much friendlier at the top, and we share information. We talk about what's going on. Back then, it was just like, am I going to get the better spin this time, or is he going to get me? It was more that kind of thing. Or
sure.
Who's this sword knight? Let's see if he has any salt at all. And there was no conversation about it normally. It was just like, let's hit it, and then maybe we'll have some beer afterwards. But that was pretty much how it was down here.
Okay. All right. So, Michael, tell me a little bit about the first SKBC. We heard a fairly hilarious story from James about it in typical James story fashion. What were some of your first memories? What was it like, that first SKBC, which I believe was in Colorado, you said, right?
It was in Colorado. It was on a site that we would never think about for SKBC now. No kitchen.
How so?
No cabins.
No kitchen. Okay. Okay.
The fighting space was okay, but not great. It was the grass was awful, too sunny, unimproved, crapping in holes in the ground rather than toilets. Lots of things you have in a totally unimproved site. But again, we were 13 years younger and poorer. than
Sure,
the FWAC members are now. So FWAC can take a little bit more of a risk and throw a better event and hope it makes money. And it typically does. But from the very beginning, we were trying to run an event that didn't cost the kingdom anything and didn't owe the kingdom anything and straight up just worked. And we had to put our own money on the line to make that happen. Because we had less of it, the first one was pretty shoestring compared to what we do now. Otherwise, good stories, funny stories. Most of my best memories of SKBC1 involve hanging out with my friends, especially my boon companions, James and Harry, because that's where that whole boon companion thing started. But the event itself was good and well received, and it led into SKBC2 because SKBC1 worked so well, and particularly because we had an RV of Justicars from Dalos, and I think there were 7 of them in that RV. It might have been 8, but they were the visitors who showed up, other than the instructors, the guest instructors, and a few others, maybe 2 or 3 others, including Brendan, but not many.
Okay, and you mentioned FWAC a little bit earlier. For those that don't know, what is FWAC? What's FWAC's role? What does FWAC stand for?
So FWAC stands for 4 Warlords and a Crown Knight, because that was the original composition of the organizing body for SKBC. Now FWAC stands for the SKBC Organizing Committee, and it's not any particular number of any particular thing. It is the people who organize the SKBC event. Hey, I just saw Mike Paxton is in the stream. For those of you who don't know, that's Cedric. He's one of the 3 who came up with this idea. Give the guy his props.
Yeah, he definitely.
What's up, Cedric? Welcome to the stream, brother.
For sure. Cedric is the Crown Knight in FWAC, as I recall, and also a good friend of all of ours. So, and he even helped us out last year at SKBC, kind of taking over his original role. And that was really awesome of him. We appreciate that. Hopefully he'll show up again this year. But yeah, we all got a lot of love for Paxton.
True. So let's talk about a little bit of SKB's impact on AmpGuard as a whole, and let's talk about how it is going to impact other games. My first SKBC, I remember we had all the night ditching was bell rules, and so every year, which was an amazingly violent affair. It was brutal. I walked away with like a cantaloupe-sized hematoma on my shin because I just decided to kick people because that's what they said I could do. But let's talk about the impact on SKBC on AmpGuard first, and then let's go is SKB going to try and impact the other games? Is it going to be the melting pot for those games where everybody can kind of coalesce into one place and share knowledge? Let's talk about that a little bit.
So, yeah, the impact for AmpGuard, I don't know how much I want to credit SKBC. It's hard to judge, but I can tell you AmpGuard right now has a teaching culture. From the first day somebody shows up, somebody more veteran at their park is trying to teach them and make them better. And that carries them all the way up the line in almost every park I've visited. And I've visited a lot of them. So it is clear that AmpGuard has that teaching culture pretty deeply ingrained. Will that spread to the other games? I don't know. The other games, particularly Bell and Dag, that are the ones I'm most familiar with, do not have the same pressure to get better at the very top that we do, because we use a crucible to measure out who our best fighters are. We put them into tournaments and make them fight each other. Because we do that, we really are looking at a situation where not only do all the teachers get benefit out of teaching, but all the students want to learn. And I've played a lot of Bell, particularly in the Chicagoland area, Upper Midwest, which is one of Bell's two strongest areas, and the culture there is not like that at all. Okay, and I'm not saying that it can't change that way. There are definitely some people who genuinely want to increase their skill, but the majority of fighters just want to go out and have some fun and are happy getting kills pretty often and getting to throw hard shots and run around and have fun with their buddies. And they're not measuring as much as we are. And because of that, will it spread the same way? It's hard to tell. Clearly, there are people in those games, and I think Peter is the absolute pinnacle of the iceberg. But there's plenty right behind him who are plenty competitive and want to get as good as they possibly can, and are well on the way to doing that. And is it enough to change the culture? I don't know.
Interesting. So Chaubert asked, this would be a good one for both of you. He wants to hear about any horror stories on the reasons why every new instructor gets the informational talk on Friday morning, the do's and don'ts, the what to do, what not to do with the students. I guess Chaubert wants to know why that is. So is there a reason? Is there a person who's a reason?
I can give you my reasons, and there's a funny story which I'll tell in a second, and another reason, and I'll tell both. But I'll also say that since I'm no longer on FWAC, it's no longer my problem, so they may not keep it. But the reason, the non-funny story reason why I believe it's important is it's a chance for these instructors who especially the new ones may not know all the others to know them and recognize them face to face.
Sure.
And making sure there's an informational meeting first thing on Friday prevents more of my instructors from showing up at 8:55. At 9:05 for a 9 o'clock class, because
right.
It was very frustrating to her. Sorry, when I was the instructor liaison, and thank God that is Noah's problem now. But when I was the instructor liaison, that was the most frustrating thing an instructor could do to me, is show up 5 minutes or 10 minutes late for his class, especially that. So that was the other reason to have the meeting. Now for the funny story. At SKBC 2, I think it was 2. At SKBC 2, Spin came into Guy's Florentine class and basically started pulling students aside in the back of the class and telling them, "This instructor is totally wrong. He's stupid. He knows nothing. Walk away from class." And my personal take on this is that Spin at his best was clearly a better Florentiner than Guy at his best, but it is retarded to say that Guy was offering no value to these students just because he happened to use a different style than Spin preferred.
Right. Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure that our new instructors understood that this was unacceptable, and that if they had a veteran instructor come try and pull that crap on them, they would feel like this is something they had a right to go to FWAC and go, "Hey, why is this guy interfering with my class?" And honestly, we haven't had that problem in years and years and years. So I don't think that that's still a serious need for why we have the meeting. But that is the funny story answer to the meeting question.
Indeed. So if you're a brand new fighter and this is your first SKBC, what should that fighter expect, and what advice would you give those new fighters on picking their classes and figuring out what to take? Are there must-take classes, do you feel like? The first one that comes to mind that could maybe make that argument would be Clawless's body mechanics class. I generally hear that one. Kearney Foo's another one. Do you feel like there are some must-take classes that newer players who have never been to an SKBC should go ahead and just sign up for, or do you feel that there's a method to picking classes? Maybe. What are your thoughts?
So I agree with you. I advise everybody to start with body mechanics their first year. There's a couple of classes usually of body mechanics early in SKBC, and honestly, the biggest takeaway you get from that class is knowing whether you're throwing shots that are going to hurt your body in the long run. Those shots are going to be less efficient anyway. You don't want to learn a bunch of mechanics that you're going to have to rebuild 5 years down the road. So I definitely recommend that. I also think that if you're brand new and you've never taken a drills class, that's another class that what they call it, fundamentals or drills or whatever.
I'm getting a lot of feedback here. I want to make sure everybody can hear what you're saying. There it goes.
Yeah, cleared out. I wonder, like, Noah's in the call now, and we start getting a little feedback when he joins, so I wonder if he's, like, echoing or something.
Okay. Would you mind repeating that, Mikey, from when you were talking about the drills class?
Yeah. Whether they call it drills or fighting fundamentals, that's a class I sort of recommend for everybody. Peter, Tato are the people who are instructing it most often these days. But that's a class we've had probably since SKBC 2, virtually every year. Hand matching is another good class, although to be honest, newbies may not need hand matching as much. In my opinion, it's still a pretty valuable concept. The other thing I think you can't miss on, take a basic style class or two in your favorite style. Any newbie who doesn't do that is putting themselves behind the curve. Now, it's certainly true that our basic classes are taught by our newest instructors, but nobody is out there by themselves, so there'll be a veteran instructor in there with them co-instructing. So if a new instructor really has trouble, you're still going to get a great education out of it. And if he doesn't have trouble, you're going to be even better off. And the new instructors, they're all warlords. Or if they're from another organization, they are good enough that FWAC believes in AmpGuard they could be warlords. Okay? So it's not a matter of these are new instructors, so they're terrible. Who cares about them? We really believe that if you're a new person, you got to get your basic classes, because learning your basics is the critical thing for new students.
Sure.
I will personally say, and I don't want to flood the poor man, but we do have some instructors who prefer basic classes and are particularly good with them. Good grief! What is Chris's fighting name?
Which Chris?
Chris Aubin. What is his fighting name? Cyric.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, Chris Aubin. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a guy who specializes in teaching newbie classes, beginner classes, and he is legitimately very good at them. So I would recommend if you're interested in board and there's a Cyric beginning board class, make sure you take that.
He's a good dude too. Really good.
But those are two guys who particularly specialize in the basic classes. They're both board specialists. So I don't have somebody I can tell you who specializes and is a Florentine specialist who specializes in both beginner and Florentine. But honestly, if you take a basic class, you're going to get taught by a warlord and a veteran instructor. You're not going to get a bad education, and you really should learn those basics first. So if you're a first-time attender, that's what I recommend.
Indeed. Dalos, what do you think? Beginners advice? Any particular classes that you feel like you want to add to Mikey's list there?
I think that list is pretty inclusive as far as what I would recommend that
Yeah,
beginners take. I mean,
totally.
I think though that the classes now that are just starting to spring up, so just to touch on the history for a minute of this answer, we've always had a
Sure.
footwork class for a long time we have, but it's been like a lot of it was like footwork drills and jump rope, like how to train your feet to be better. Now
Mm.
our focus in footwork has shifted a little bit to actually using footwork in fighting. And for a while, I was the only one teaching that, but now other people are teaching that. That is not or should not be an advanced concept. Like you should definitely get a class that's going to teach you those concepts. And some people will put it in their basics class, some
Definitely.
people won't. But that's to me, that's like a basic thing you should be learning. Um, because if you're standing still or just moving backwards or forwards, the game's going to evolve past you. We're not there yet, but it will. It will become a thing. Granted, that's kind of my soapbox, but I think that enough people are doing that it's important. Um, Sponge has been uh, slowly convincing me that um, if you had of a good like grasp a fundamental single sword, then um, you'll kind of get more of the footwork and basic stuff you need without distraction. I haven't always felt that that's true, and still not sure I'm 100% convinced that that's the case. But I will say that he makes a compelling argument that if you go and take single sword classes, at least one, then the focus there will be heavy on like placement and footwork and things that
Mm.
will carry over into all the other styles. So
Interesting.
it's something he has been. It's like a long-standing argument between he and I, and he's been slowly winning me over. And I'm pretty hard-headed, so the fact that I'm slowly being convinced means that it's pretty compelling stuff that he's talking about. So I would say maybe a single class, if you're brand new,
Yeah.
would definitely help out and kind of get you in the swing of things as well.
Just to go back to your footwork comment, I mean, I think that's really true. And you made a comment there that the game hadn't caught up to that point yet, but I also feel like it's about to. And it's interesting that if you do any other combat sports, if you've done anything like I don't know, like boxing or kickboxing or martial arts, they always the teaching process is from the ground up. You start with stance, you start with how to move, and then you move on to how to actually hit somebody or execute a certain technique or something. And I feel like SKBC is kind of where this is starting, and it's going to be really interesting to see, like you mentioned, how that's going to change the game and what impact that's going to have. Um, Moving on to, we just talked about new fighters. Let's go. Here we go. This goes well. William Hedden asks, at high mid tier, do you get greater benefit from picking the classes you need from any random instructor or picking instructors you want to learn from regardless of the class? What do you guys think?
Um, I would say that what you want to do, almost all the people that are instructing, you can find some video of them either teaching before or them actually fighting. And I would look at I would say look at what they're doing and look at how they teach, and ask yourself, is this someone I can learn from? Now, you're obviously everyone at SKBC that's teaching, you should be able to learn something from, but there are just teaching styles that are more um, that work better for you, right? And no one knows you like you do. So take a look at those people and say,
Yeah.
hey, I think I could really learn from that Anatole guy. He's got those dulcet tones that I love. Or I could really learn. I could really learn from Eggman because I like the way that he like almost uses kind of a boxing sort of style with his in and out. Like these are the kind of things that I'm not saying you want to exactly copy that style. That's not my point. But they have pieces that you maybe want to add that you think you could learn from them in their classes, right? So I would say you don't want to randomly pick an instructor. Also, I would, I think they still do this. They put the instructor's contact information out there. Shoot them an email and ask them. Say, hey, I really want to learn this. Is this something you're going to cover? And if you ask me
Totally.
that question, you'll get more back than you bargained for. You'll get a very detailed answer more than likely. So, and a lot of instructors are like that. I think if
Uh,
if you're proactive and reach out, then then almost all of them will answer, and you'll know like, hey, I want to learn from this guy, or I don't, or yeah, he's going to cover the stuff I want, or I would recommend if I wasn't going to cover the stuff you'd want to like. Now I'm not going to really talk about that, but I know Shion will talk about it. Go take his class, right? Like we'll all kind of do that. So I would say, I guess that's my answer to that question.
Definitely. Will, any comments on that?
No, I mostly agree with James that it's a pretty holistic answer. You can't just with the class title randomly and take whatever instructor you get. But I think I want to stress this because I think it's real important. You also cannot afford to find an instructor who you like and follow them to all their classes, because while we have some instructors who are really, really good, getting that variety of instructors makes the 1 weekend a year you can commit to this considerably more effective. That's not to say you might not take 2 from your favorite instructor, but if you're taking 5 from your favorite instructor and pulling one of their cards too, you're probably going too far.
Right. How about, that brings up a question, how about some of you guys' favorite classes, if you've had the opportunity to be a student? I know, Dalos, you've been able to be a student at least SKBC 1, but have you guys taken classes in the later years? What are some of those classes that you really liked, that resonated with you, or have you had that opportunity really?
For myself, like Will tries to avoid this. MHOG, Michael Hammergod, he tries to avoid this, but generally I end up teaching every slot, so I don't usually get to go to a lot of classes. I will say, like, I randomly stumbled into Aaron teaching a Florentine class of all things, and I really enjoyed like uh, just kind of working with him. It just worked out that I helped teach it. It wasn't planned, it wasn't scheduled, and I wasn't trying to interfere. I was certainly just kind of chilling out. But you know, he kind of you know involved me, and so I helped out, and that was a lot of fun. I think his Florentine concepts are really really good and solid stuff. Obviously, he's one of the best Florentine fighters in the game, so he's got a lot to teach in that subject. Aaron is Peter the Quick. Sorry, I know all these guys in real life. They're actually my friends too, so sometimes I'll use their real names. But yeah, and actually, I taught combat computer for a lot of years, and then Imran, who's one of your guys, decided to teach a very similar class to combat computer, and I was off that slot, and I did go and kind of sit in there and watch, and I will say that I enjoyed someone else taking something that I feel like I kind of developed as a class and moving it into like kind of their own direction. And he asked for some input afterwards, and I was happy to give that to him. But you know, it's they say like you want to see someone take the stuff that you developed and take it further, right? To take it to new heights. And I think that's the genesis of that, right? Because I'm an old man. With that class as well.
You guys, sorry, I had a hiccup there. So as a longtime member of FLAC, one of the things FLAC does is they have a member of FLAC go sit in on at least one class from every new instructor. So I got to go to a lot of classes from first year instructors, and a few classes from people later down the line. You want to talk about some of my very favorites, and it's terrible for me to blow my bro when we're here on a freaking call. But Dalos' Sword and Board class at SKBC Seattle 1 was probably one of the best classes I've ever attended. And he's worked a lot on the class since then, so it's not the same class I took then. But at that time, I was a warlord in my prime, and Sword and Board was what I was good at. And James had some things that I thought were extremely valuable, big ads there. So I remember that still as one of the most memorable classes that I got to take. I've sat in on some of these other classes. You can see in the stream a bunch of people mentioned shot creation. That's a class I got to sit in at SKBC Salt Lake. Most of the class, that's one I really enjoyed. And there are others, but the the Dalos board class from SKBC Seattle 1, was that 10 years ago? 10 years ago. That one sticks in my mind.
Wow.
Very cool. Very, very cool.
It's funny. It's funny. Can I comment on that real
quick?
Go
ahead.
I think that's when I
go ahead, please.
I really kind of got my stride teaching at that point in time. You know, everyone has to learn when they come into this to teach if they haven't taught stuff before. And so that's just the way it goes. I think that's the year I kind of really hit my stride and really developed some good material and focused on how to teach. So that's actually some awesome feedback. And from 10 years ago, so a blast in the past. It's awesome. Thank you.
Wow. Very cool. Very cool. So let's say you're a vet that you're wondering, okay, why is there no intermediate class? I'm having trouble picking between this basic class, and I think I may be further along than just my basics, let's say basic single sword or basic sword board, just for the sake, whatever. But I'm not sure I can really take that extra leap to the advanced class. What would you guys advise that kind of fighter to do? Because there is no intermediate level. Would you advise them on the whole to kind of go ahead and jump in the deep end and see what can come from it, or if they're having doubts as to where they are, maybe it's a better idea to jump back into the basic class? What would you guys say?
I would say, again, communication. Reach out to the instructor that's teaching that advanced class and say, what are you going to cover really? Like, I'm thinking about taking this, and this is what I'm good at right now. This is where I struggle, and see what that instructor tells you. Like, more than likely, you're not giving yourself enough credit, and reaching out to that instructor will definitely help you. And the good instructors will tell you, like, hey, not only will they tell you that you shouldn't take their class if you shouldn't, but they'll tell you whose class they think you should take that will be most beneficial for you. And I think learning is a two-way street, right? And the sooner that you start on taking control and ownership of your own path of learning, which reaching out to the people who you plan to learn from is a very good way of doing that. I think that's going to benefit you a ton. So that's what I would do if I was in that situation.
And
that's beautiful as fuck, James.
My comment is, obviously James is right, but there's sort of a sausage-making comment about why there isn't an intermediate class, and it's because there's no good way to measure these students so they get to self-identify.
Right.
And people who are cocky as fuck assume they're advanced when they're terrible. People who are a little more cautious are actually pretty good and assume they're beginners. So you end up with a mix, and you throw an intermediate in there, it's way too hard. Nobody has any idea. When we tried intermediate for a couple of years, honestly...
Oh, what was that like?
There was too much overlap. There was no way to do it. It was actually, we had a beginner, an advanced, and a 101. And the 101 was basically intended only for people who were within a few months of starting foam fighting.
Uh-huh.
And even with that caveat and explanation, you had people taking the 101 classes who were way more advanced than that. And you had people who belonged in the 101 classes in the beginner and in the advanced. 3 levels is too complex for people to self-identify, especially when the skill level in your area may not match the skill level nationwide. We're lucky in that AmpGuard travels enough that the top skill level nationwide doesn't diverge a ton. It diverges some, though. Go fight the East Coast Warlords, and you'll know it diverges some. But it doesn't diverge a ton. But the bottom level of the skill rank diverges even more.
Sure.
So, two class levels is the right number, in my opinion. And FWAC has continued to believe that. It's one of those things we talk about in our FWAC meetings. Not every year, maybe, but every other year at least. It comes up often.
Interesting. So, Kat asked a great question there, and I want to get to Kat's question, but while we're on this topic, you mentioned earlier about our top tier fighting being such a crucible, and we're talking about people measuring themselves and having either an inflated idea of themselves or a pretty realistic idea of being cautious or too cocky or whatnot. Obviously, SKBC brings the best of the best together, undoubtedly. How much or how valuable do you guys think it is to spend your time headhunting and measuring yourself against the best of the best, against that top tier at SKBC, as opposed to going out there and just seeking to learn, not seeking to, or is there a balance that you should, that's healthy, I guess? Because I feel like some SKBCs, some students definitely go there for measuring, go there for the targets, but maybe that's not the most healthy approach to SKBC. What do you guys think?
So, I don't want to get away from the funny story thing so much, so I've got a funny story on this topic.
Awesome, thank you.
And I guess it's cruel to mention the guy's name and throw him under the bus, but I'm going to anyway. At SKBC Albuquerque, Xander was there to measure, 100%. And
okay.
I'm not criticizing him for that. He's on the cusp. He has every reason to want to measure. But he pulled my card, and I'm not what I used to be, and I'm aware of that. And that was pre-surgery, so now I'm really not what I used to be. But I was happy to take his card, and I said, "Hey, is there anything I can teach you? Is there anything you want me to show you?" And he said, "No, I think it's fine. I just want to fight." I said, "All right." And we fought, and he was ahead, and I don't remember how much he was ahead by, but he was ahead by enough that we both knew it. And I said, "Look, that was great. Do you want a piece of advice?" And he said, "No, I'm fine." And I said, "Well, I've actually noticed something that I think you can fix. Do you want to hear it?" He said, "No, I'm fine." I said, "Okay, can I ask you to fight a friend of mine?" He said, "I guess." And so I went and got Thedro, and I'm like, "Thedro, you go fight this guy." And I didn't tell Thedro what the gap I'd noticed in Xander's game was, that I wasn't exploiting as well as I should have been. I didn't tell him anything. I just said, "Will you please just go fight Thedro? Go fight Xander." Thedro went over to 10, and Thedro won by a considerable amount, and he got 4 kills straight in the weakness I saw. And I'm pretty sure the weakness I saw is that he was closing. He was in the timing of his close. I can't remember the details right now, but it was in the timing of his close. And I wasn't getting him on it because I just wasn't quite fast enough, which bad on me. But the fact is, 4 out of 10 times, Thedro killed him right in that spot. And then afterward, I was like, "Thedro, what do you think's the biggest fix that Xander could do today to improve his game?" And Thedro basically gave him exactly the answer I would have given. So I felt like I had at least given Xander some learning, which was but the point of that story isn't to say, "Oh, well, Xander was too cocky," because some people do go there to measure. It is instead to say, if you go there to measure, don't forget to learn, because I don't care how good you are, you still got something to learn.
And I think to build off that point, Mikey, who you're really going there to measure is not measure yourself against other people, it's measure yourself against yourself, right? To see what your failures, your strengths, your weaknesses are, and how various people bring that out of you, kind of like what you're talking about. Do you think, I'm going to throw this one over to Dalos, do you think there's an element of that that's healthy at an event such as SKBC?
I would say absolutely. SKBC one, I certainly was there to do a lot of measuring. Like I said, I was a cocky youth, and I got a lot out of it because it was the top of the game. But I did end up learning, and a lesson, just to touch on this topic, that my dad always taught me, and it's a common lesson, so it's not like it's unique to him, but he's the one who taught me, was you can learn something from everyone, and that's always stuck in my head. even if it's learning what not to do because they're doing it wrong, you can still learn from them. And you should treat, and my jiu-jitsu teacher taught me that you should treat every opponent with respect, regardless of how much better than you they are, because everyone's out there kind of doing the same thing, putting their time in, putting the work in. And we respect the art, we respect the work. You don't have to necessarily respect. If they have a bad attitude, it doesn't matter. They're putting the work in. You don't have to respect their attitude, but respect the fact that they're putting the work in. Have respect for the art. Something he always taught me, and something that I've always kind of carried with me. But to get back to the original question, yes, of course, there's value in it. Like, if you've been watching, um, the Shions of the world, the Anatoles of the world, the Brennans of the world on videos, especially since a lot more of that's out there, and you have something you want to try, then you want to try it. You want to find those guys and see if you can hit them with it. This is something you've been working on. Dizzy always says I can beat someone on the internet 10 times out of 10, but when I'm really fighting, it doesn't always quite work that way, right? So you definitely
steal that shit.
That's
Awesome.
yeah, that's Dizzy for you. So you definitely want to
Big ups to Dizzy.
you want to learn, right? And you want to go up against the best, because look, if you want to beat the lower tier to mid tier in your area, fighter, whatever that may be, that's what you need SKBC for. That's what you're going to learn, like how to beat the best of the best, or at least have a good chance with them. Not like how to throw. For in the basic classes, yes, you'll learn how to throw a wrap shot. But as someone who would be going there to measure, you're going there to learn how to beat those top people. So yeah, absolutely, go fight them. Do it in a friendly fashion. Do it in a humble fashion with the willingness to learn, and you'll find it far more valuable than just like, hey, I'm gonna throw my junk on the table and say I'm better than you. You're not going to learn anything that way. You're cutting your own legs off in the learning process.
True. I like the way you said that. Go ahead, Mikey. Yeah.
I agree with everything James says about the need for respect and the need to hit all of it with an attitude of learning. However, and I wanna emphasize the yes, possibly even stronger than James did. If you're an amp guarder and you have goals in amp guard that involve being recognized for being good at this, we measure. You need to measure yourself so you're ready to be measured by our organization. Now, whether that's good or bad, we could argue all day about whose culture is more appealing to newbies, who's better and how. But part of amp guard's character is we are competitive and we measure. So if you go to SKBC, measuring as an amp guarder is pretty natural, and I would always ask everybody to do it respectfully, just like everyone should do everything in respect. But it's kind of crazy to say, well, I'm pretty good, I'm going to go to SKBC and not measure. That just doesn't seem right to me.
Sure. Yeah, makes sense. So let's kind of jump back to the bigger picture here. Kat, again, I love your question. I think that might be my closing question here. So I'm going to save it. But how do you guys think SKBC is going to change in the future as it continues to, just like our sport incorporates new ideas and has different innovators and different perspectives that change the way it is for the better. What do you guys foresee as some of those changes, since you have the scope of history on your side and you've kind of seen it evolve up to this point? What do you think the future holds for SKBC?
So, as a member of FWAC for many, many years, I know a lot of the things we talked about and rejected, or talked about and tried, and they failed. So I know what kind of directions we might not go. It's a little hard to guess what changes we'll see in SKBC in the future. I can tell you that we do believe in a culture of continuous improvement. From the very first SKBC, we've always done surveys at the end of the event. We've always taken those surveys seriously, tried to improve our classes, try to improve the event as a whole. I think you see each instructor doing that. They read their feedback assiduously and try to improve their individual classes. The biggest change we've made in the last 5 years that I think is hugely positive is the one-on-one time cards. And I wish we had another change that was that positive for the event, planned or in the works. And maybe they do, because with all my health issues, I missed some FWAC meetings even though I'm allowed to still attend them. So I don't know what kind of cool idea they might have. But the last one I attended, we didn't have any ideas that good on the burner, but we certainly talk about it all the time. You know, if you've got an idea that you think could improve SKBC, and you don't know any of the FWAC members well, you can literally talk to any of the 3 people on this podcast, on Facebook, or you can talk to us in person, or any other way, and we'll make damn sure FWAC hears about it.
Yeah, I mean, I will. Just to build off your point, Mikey, my first SKBC, and actually my second one, I think my second one was Boston, which was Boston after California? That'd be 2010. Was that the one after Cali?
Boston was before Cali, I think.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, I think it was right before Cali.
No, because Cali was my first. Cali was 2009. That was my first one, and then.
Okay. All right, then it was before Boston. Then is that
maybe?
Right? I'd have to look at the wiki, and my stupid computer is acting stupid, so I can't do it easily. But
right. Well, regardless, all I wanted to say to build on that point was, coming from southern New Mexico in an area where, with a Nihilus and a Sidra, and all those guys are great dudes, and I love them to death. But it was a very, very hostile environment. Made a lot of us wheels into these, scrappy, kind of pugnacious kids. Going to SKBC and having that kind of chip on our shoulders, I mean, the experience was a complete 180. The SKBC just community and a group of instructors really welcomed a lot of us, Elmer and myself. Later welcomed Shion and Ilman and all those guys, and that whole kind of experience of bringing everybody out was palpable. Everybody was excited. There was definitely the measuring thing, but everybody was so approachable. My first SKBC was the first one that I taught at too, but nobody was above giving me some advice or doing some one-on-ones on me or kind of critiquing my style. I remember specifically spending a long time with Arthon, I think it was, and Arthon and I think Spin actually. Spin and Colobus, and both of those guys were completely welcoming. What about you, Dalos?
So it's funny. Like I said, I think that the footwork thing is starting to take off. Like you said, I think we're right on the cusp.
Lose Dalos?
I can hear him.
Yeah.
You can hear? Okay, then just keep going. Keep going, James. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, the stream can hear me too.
Good.
I would say that we're right on the cusp of that kind of being a lot more prominent, and some of these more individual skill style things. I think timing will become a thing pretty soon. Situational awareness will start becoming a thing. We'll start seeing these classes. I'm giving you kind of hints of the next. I usually have classes that I think we're not ready for yet as a game, and I don't teach them out yet. And I think that's kind of the stuff on the horizon. So we'll look almost more like a real martial art, and less like kind of where we've kind of been in the development process right now. We'll have more of a deep understanding of more of a body discipline, movement discipline, and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of maybe where we're going. Well, you can let him know I'm finished responding.
Okay, Dalos is done.
I can hear you now, James. Yeah, it was just for a second. Thank you, though. Anna asks, do you guys think SKBC is what changed the culture of Vanguard to encourage teaching instead of hoarding fighting information. And I think you came in a little late in the stream. We kind of went over that at the beginning, so just
Actually,
for the sake of...
Can I add something real fast to that? Sorry.
100%.
So, like, between SKBC 2 and 3, I think it might have been between 1 and 2, Harry and I did that kind of famous now sword and board video, and that's not something we would have done before SKBC. So I would say that SKBC and Zig as well, may he rest in peace, and you know, that was a big thing, kind of a first in the Amp Guard, and I think that SKBC propelled us into doing that and propelled like the teaching culture. So Will doesn't give it enough credit, I think, or he's just being a humble about it. But I think if it didn't have a big part to do it, if certainly fast forwarded it. If it would have happened in Amp Guard anyway, it wouldn't have happened as fast without SKBC. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Good answer. Yeah, same here. Anna says she watched that sword and board video a few dozen times. I will comment on that and say that video I think I've probably seen literally at least 100 times, because that was it back in the day. And like I said, we didn't really have people that wanted to teach us down in Las Cruces, New Mexico, so that was a beacon of light in the sea of darkness. All right, so we're kind of...
Hang on, I'm going to answer Anna's question. James, I think he triggered something in me a little bit. And it's not
you triggered him. You triggered him, James.
I'm not sure whether it's I'm being too humble or what. What I can say for sure is SKBC, as a teaching vehicle, has been super valuable. But the other thing that it's done that is critical to Amp Guard becoming a sharing culture rather than a hoarding culture with fighting knowledge is it brings all those instructors who are the very best people in the game together once a year. And man, that social pressure for everybody to be cool about it is pretty high. And
Definitely.
Once the top's doing it, everybody else does it. So did we achieve it because it was our mission? Maybe. Did we achieve it? I think it's much more likely.
Well said.
Yeah, I know Anatole's about to close out here, but I do want to mention real fast, and then he can get to his closing question, and I'll stay online to do the close of the auction. One Grind Nation is doing the auction right now. If you're waiting to bid, which I know some of you are, then I would start doing it now. Like I said, we're not going to allow the eBay snipe style 929, bids. So you might as well, because I'll stay here until like the last person that wants to bid has done. Right now, Lady Armstrong's gift certificate to jump to the front of her line, which is a very long line, like 2 years, is at 210. Sebastian Dulac's belt, custom leather belts, 210. Greasy's Feast, 140. Greasy's 10 pounds of sausage. And by the way, Greasy is the best, finest chef in all of Amp Guard. Maybe all of foam fighting. And anyone who wants to challenge him, he'll answer that call. I promise you that. His sausage is
what's Greasy's at? What's Greasy's at right now?
His sausage is at 80, and then he's offering a feast for anyone that's in the Tri-Kingdom area of our Tri-Kingdom CKEH wetlands. And right now that's at 140. The sausage, a separate auction is at 80. And then one of my favorite items, the Diego Shield, which I might bid on myself just so I have a backup, is at 150. Actually, I probably won't because it's my auction, but that is a steal for that shield. The shield is completely amazing. It'll change your life. So if you want to bid on any of those stuff, all the proceeds go to Toys for Tots, which is an awesome cause. We totally appreciate it. But yeah, I wanted to mention that because I know we're getting close to the time. So
yeah, and then as well, our coaching sessions as well. We're donating a portion to that Toys for Tots as well, right, James? Or something like that.
Yeah. So the coaching sessions, I don't know that I'm advertising it properly because we haven't gotten a ton of bites on it. It's something I'm going to see how. Maybe I want to talk to someone about. Maybe we'll do a free one with them if they're willing to let us stream it, and we'll see if that kind of kickstarts people. See if that kind of kickstarts people seeing the value of it. Because I promise you, if you spend an hour with Anatole and myself, or Shion and myself, or Shion and Anatole, or Peter the Quick as well doing it, or with any one of us, or even two of us, if you opt to go that way, you will get value out of that. I promise you. Like, if our sole focus for an hour is to help you get better, you're gonna get at least 2 or 3 things, which are all you can probably really handle in the space of an hour to help you get better. So it's something we want to offer the community. We'll explore it further for sure, but that's also something, and all the proceeds from that also go to Toys for Tots, or sorry, partial proceeds for that one go to Toys for Tots. So
yeah.
Yep.
Cool. So yeah, let's I gotta finish up here, but I think Kat asked a particularly awesome question. Let me see. That'd be a good one to close out here, and I can't wait because I feel like this is going to be a good shit stirring question for Mikey in particular. But what is the one thing you want to be remembered for in foam fighting? Dalos, let's start with you.
It's funny because I would say like 3 to 6 months ago, my answer would have been footwork, like promoting footwork, getting it out there, helping people learn to start moving their feet properly. It's a passion of mine, certainly something I want the game to learn. But I think I would change it now. I would like to feel like I would be remembered for helping the culture of positive reinforcement for people that are actually in the grind and helping one another out. Like, I want to maybe be seen as a catalyst for that really kicking off, and people really taking an active part in not only their own learning, but in people across the country's learning, like an active interest in, Kat in the Phoenix crew did fighter practice today. Like, that's awesome. I think that's really cool. Like, I better not skip fighter practice. Like, they're not sleeping. I can't sleep. I got to stay up on this as well. And that positive reinforcement that's happening across the country, if I'm remembered as being the catalyst for that, I think like that's super awesome.
Amazing. Great answer. What about you, Mr. Sir MHOG?
So I can tell you, the answer to this is actually simple, and you got a hard time stirring some shit on it.
Oh, come on, give me some shit, Mikey.
I'd love to, but it's hard.
All right, fair enough.
So for probably 8 years, around 8 years, every time somebody asks me the question, what am I proudest of what I've done in foam fighting? What do I think my biggest contribution to foam fighting is? What do I think is the most fun thing I've done? For about 8 years, the answer has been SKBC. Like, no doubts about it in my mind. It's what I think my biggest contribution is. And those of you who know my history know I've done a lot of other things in foam fighting, but this is the one I'm most proud of. Now, I am trying to better my own record, same as everybody else should be doing. You said yourself, it's always about trying to beat yourself. And I would like to see myself prouder of Keep on the Borderlands than I am of SKBC, but I'm not yet. Despite the fact that we've built the biggest event in Amcard, we're getting close to the event sizes that we had in the old days, and I think in a few years it'll be the biggest Amcard event that we've ever had.
Looking that way for sure, yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm not trying to do better than SKBC, but if you're asking me today, it's still SKBC. And it's because while I do everything in Amcard, and I love Amcard for all of it, fighting is my passion, and SKBC promotes that passion. So it's too easy a question from my point of view.
Right on. Good answer. Really good answer. So that's it, guys. That is Stabchats. I'm really happy that we made the move over here. We found our new home. We've integrated with the One Grind Nation, and I think that's the best place it could possibly be. And hopefully we'll be able to do this a little bit more. As always, check out the One Grind Nation for tips on fighting, suggestion, advice, anything like that. If you feel like you want to donate to us, there's an option to do that, but it is by no means necessary. you guys' continued support is enough, really, and keeps us inspired. We're going to keep doing this regardless, like I say on every stream, but you guys make it a lot more, a lot less lonely, I guess I'll say. Okay, so that's
Yeah,
that.
awesome.
Yeah,
Cool.
I think it was good. I had a
Yeah,
lot of fun. I want to thank you guys very much for coming on. Thanks, Mikey. Thanks, Dalos. As always, let's do it again sometime.
yeah,
Well, I
absolutely.
think it's
Go ahead.
no, you first, James.
I was moving into auction stuff, so you can go ahead.
Okay, so I appreciate all the kind words, Isaac. I think it's critical that we also thank you for
Oh,
putting the effort to
oh,
make this happen. And your Stabchat podcasts are super popular because people want to hear more about fighting. They want to talk more about fighting. They want interesting and insightful questions. You do a good job with that. And then, of course, the other thank you that should go without saying, but should have never go unsaid, is thank you to everybody who's listening to this stream.
yeah,
Anybody
yeah.
picks it up later or whatever. The three of us are good friends, and we could chat without y'all and have almost as much fun. But it only really works to spread the message and continue the mission if we have plenty of people listening and sharing it with their friends and talking about it with their friends later.
Beautiful. Well
Yeah,
said, sir.
absolutely. And we're gonna make this VOD available on the OGN page. We'll see if Mo can put it on Morpheus. My Squire can put it up on YouTube as well, so that you can go and listen to it. Because normally they're available on Soundwave or SoundCloud, wherever Anatole was keeping them. But we'll keep them on
Yeah.
we'll keep them on our page. I actually went back and listened to a couple of them recently.
Oh,
We could talk more about that after I let these guys go because I know they gotta have places to be. I'll be here with you guys until the auction closes out. So it's awesome. I fully appreciate 100% Will joining us, as for
yeah.
sure, and Anatole for moving Stab Chats over and for helping me out with One Grind Nation. Like the amount that I can do is multiplied a lot by having him involved, and also Shion from over there in Santa Fe involved. And it started with Santa Fe and Austin throwing challenges back and forth to one another. So
Yeah.
it's fitting
Yep.
that they're
Yep.
helping me. They're helping me out. So yeah,
And
thank you guys.
I will say that is a bromance that started at SKBC Utah.
That is 100% true.
That that whole thing. So really, I remember specifically we were at that weird bar on base, and Dalos was buying shots, and it just took off from there. So I guess we kind of have SKBC to thank for One Grind Nation in some ways.
Yeah, I would say
It's
like
awesome.
yeah, we started a clan, but the root of OGN and really Isaac and I delving into fighting because both of us have very similar kind of points of view. Not exactly the same, but
Mhm.
similar, and we but definitely have the same passion for understanding of fighting at kind of the base levels of the mechanics of it. And all that happened at Utah in the bar. It was the only SKBC that had a bar on site. One of my favorites for sure. But
Oh, definitely,
but
definitely.
yeah, that was really great. Um,
That was a good one,
and it
man.
was a
Good one.
classic. The one SKBC, or maybe he's missed two now, but one of the ones that Arthon misses, and there's a bar on site. It's like it's the funniest thing ever. It's the funniest thing ever.
I'm learning.
That's awesome. All right. Well, peace, guys. It was awesome. Let's do it again sometimes.
All right, thanks, y'all.
Yeah, thanks.
All
My
right.
audio
Have a
cut
good
out there for a minute,
one.
so I missed a piece of that. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. Take care. Uh, we're closing out the auction here. We're down to about 4 minutes left. I don't see new bids coming in. If it stands how it is now, we super appreciate everyone who's bid. We definitely appreciate all the people who've contributed to the auction. Um, you know, I have to give Greasy a lot of credit for the fact that I use my talent, my amp card talent to do these kind of auctions. And obviously, people are helping me, so I'm not claiming full credit for what they do. But I will say that Gracie doing his stuff like fully motivated me to want to get out there and use the platforms that I have to help out in a charitable fashion. I think it's important for us as a community not only to help our own community, being the foam fighting community, but to involve ourselves in helping other communities. That positive energy you put out there, I always say it, I try to say it every stream, the positive energy that you put out is going to come back to you. And so if we focus on doing that, I think that there's a great benefit to us and to our game if we do that. And Greasy was the one who really kind of set the example for me to do that, so I certainly appreciate him doing that. Want to give him a lot of credit for that. So, yep. Again, if you're going to bid away. You're running out of time if not. That Diego shield. I know, Michael. I know you're like you got this on lock right now. I won't steal it off front of you, but I certainly am tempted to because he's actually even improved. He's actually improved the tech. He's actually improved the tech even since he made mine, which was not that long ago. So he believes in constant improvement, and his stuff just keeps getting better and better. I don't need to say much about Lady Armstrong. Her talent is well known. She's amazing. Jumping to the front of her line. Oh, we have a bid for the Diego shield. Someone just put in 160. So we're right at 928. Like I said, there's no sniping, so I'll give a chance for someone to counterbid that. I imagine that Michael has an amount in his mind, in his head that he was willing to go to, and I don't think he's going to lose out on that. But that bid has gone up now to 160. And again, like I was talking about Diego, he puts a lot of attention into the stuff he does. I already talked about Greasy and the amazing work that he does, and he's an amazing chef. Sebastian, I don't know as well, but I understand that his belts are really nice, and he's gonna do a custom leather belt with whatever you want on there. So you should definitely bid on that. There's so many of these items that I was tempted to bid on myself, but it was my own auction, so I decided not to. I have a feeling that I'll be needing a white belt for someone sometime in the near future, and I was considering that, but maybe I'll just get something from him at another time. All right, the shield bid has gone up to let me make sure I see this right. Shield 170. All right, there he goes.
So I'm not going to snipe these people on that shield. It would be cruel. But the next time he auctions a shield, I'm in.
All right. I will talk to Diego again. Diego is really an awesome guy. A very good example of what a 4-belted Amp Guard Knight should look like.
Agreed.
He excels in all the categories that are necessary. Not only that, he's a hell of a nice guy. One of those people that is an example, and I think that's really like such an important part of being a knight is trying to be an example. Set the standard for what people should do, and he does that. So again, hats off to him. Everyone that's contributing to this auction is certainly doing awesome work. We appreciate them for sure for that. Even though Diego's in my company, so obviously I'm going to think highly of him. But I think we went up again. The shield is the hot item of the day. It is 931. And no one bid on anything else. So the shield seems to be what's in contention. We'll kind of let this go back and forth. Counting down live. I feel like an auctioneer. So the shield's at 180 now. We'll see if Michael wants to counter on that 180. Looks like he just did. I would definitely feel like an auctioneer. Just a delayed auctioneer, you know what I'm saying? So these shields are super valuable. Definitely.
All right, James. I'm going to say goodbye to you and all these people. I had to hang around till after 9:30, so I knew whether I was PayPaling or not. But I'm gonna log off and do that.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
Yeah, yes, sir. Thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate it. I look so forward to seeing you. Obviously, boon companions and all. We'll see you soon. And again, thanks for joining us. Have a good night. Have a happy holiday.
50-50 on Tennessee, James. I may have a plan.
All right, I like this. Let's get that to 100%.
Okay, I'll talk to you later.
All right, buddy. Take care. All right, I'm catching up on the auction here. Sorry, guys. Just need to find the thread again. Okay. I think we're at 190 for the shield unless I missed the bid. So I'm refreshing here. Sorry, I gotta refresh my screen to get the latest bids. It takes me a minute to get there. We're working on it. We are working on it, my friends. Yeah, show got that. Oh, we already have a counter bid before I can even read out the bid. So yeah, this is good. We like to see this. Shield will be worth it for sure. So I'm gonna guess we're at 210 right now. Let me see if I can see it. Here we go. The back and forth is going. Let me see if I can get to there by doing this. Oh, okay. All right. So Josh, who was in contention for the shield, dropped out. Michael, who's in Korea, has won the shield. So everyone who won an auction, you can PayPal me. I'll send you details about that. And appreciate all of you guys bidding. Again, I appreciate everyone who's contributing. Thanks for joining us for the first premiere edition of Stabchats on OGN, kind of the OGN Stabchats podcast. It was really awesome. We plan to have video for you in the future. It was a little choppy, and people were dropping out, so we stuck with my video, which was a little awkward for me. But I couldn't find a good picture just to stick up there, and I wanted you guys to know we were doing this live. So we'll see if we can do video. Maybe we'll try Google Groups next time. We're using Facebook chat this time. I didn't like it as much. So, yeah, thanks again for joining. And much love to everyone. Again, like I told you, every stream we talk about, keep the positivity up, encourage one another, be awesome to one another. There's enough negativity in the world. We don't want that. We want that positive energy. When you put it out, you're definitely going to get it back. So stay awesome to each other.